Now the purpose of this painting, you can see doing a painting from scratch. So here's my Bockingford paper. This is a £140 cold press, and it's on the artist block. So I'm not going to be getting any of that buckling, anything like that in this painting. So it's going to be quite nice to work on. And I'm starting with a little bit of dark. This is actually neutral tint, just in the sky. I want a little dramatic sky. And the purpose of this live, I want to show you how simple it can be to separate your background, your foreground, and your mid sort of foreground. I know I did a video on foregrounds, and I know that did get quite a lot of good response, good feedback. People who like to paint, they can sort of get these nice skies and then sort of struggle getting the foreground. So hopefully I want to take you through some of the things to do to just separate things in your painting, your background, your sky, foreground, and the mid foreground as well. So like I said, just a little bit of a dramatic sky. I've just poured out some more pigment from tube of this neutral tint. So you can see already I've got a little bit of drama. I do want to add a little bit of blue to this sky. And I'm letting that mix with the neutral tint. That's absolutely fine. And if you've noticed, I've left a few little white areas which I want in the sky. Just give that little break. The cloud formation as well. So you can see, using plenty of water, I didn't actually pre-wet the paper. I just went straight in with pigment and then added water and just started moving that pigment around. And that's also a nice way of starting your sky as well. So you can see a little bit of movement now, a little bit of pigments coming down, obviously with the water. The water just helps the pigment to move. And so yeah, it just gives a nice sky. And you can see just the way the sky has developed there. So I'm going to add some hills, maybe a couple of mountains, some trees, and I want to show you how, I mean, for me, trees has always been a little bit difficult for me, but I want to hopefully show you how to simplify some trees as well. So I'm going to mix a little bit of almost a purple colour, so a bit of French ultramarine and a bit of the Pyro red. So this is going to be the distant sort of hills, mountains, whatever they may be, in the far distance. There we go. Maybe a little bit more darker, so a bit more blue, a bit more of the red. You can use any blue, any red for this, just to give a little bit of distance in the painting. So you don't have to go, especially in the distance, you don't want too many details because you do want it in the distance. So I'm using a very pale mix at the moment, and I always like to do these just using a clean damp brush. Just take out a little bits of highlight in these mountain areas. So that gives a nice little effect. While the paint's still wet, you can see just getting this little lift of pigment, and that gives a really nice, you can see already we've got a nice sky. I'll just move the camera just a little bit. You can see just a nice sky and then a little bit of a mountain range in the far distance. So you don't want anything too dark at this point. You're still working from the sky, and then you got this sort of distance. So this is far in the distance, so you want to make sure that you don't have too much pigment to water. You want more water so that you get this backdrop, and it's like I said, far in the distance. And there we go. Now I'm gonna start, whenever I do a painting, I like to start from the top, so the sky area. If you've got sky in your scene, just add your colour, plenty of water, allow the pigment to mix naturally on the paper itself, and it just gives that nice movement and more pleasing results in the sky. Not much lifted there, you can see. I'm not fussed about that. You can see where I've added more water and pigment to the top. It has sort of bled out, but I'm going to leave that. I'm not too concerned because it is the sky and these things can look quite nice sometimes. Obviously, if it was in the foreground or in the midground, it would look a bit less pleasing and you wouldn't get away with it as much. But because it's the sky, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave that, and you can see what's happening. Obviously, a nice atmospheric sky. So I'm going to tackle the closer to us now. So you got the distant hills and mountains there. I'm going to add a little bit more. So as you're coming down the paper, we're going to add a little bit more colour. So I'm just introducing a little bit of sap green with the French ultramarine and a little bit of the pyro red as well. So I want some nice colours now, and I'm going to go in with another mountain ridge. You can see that, and a little bit more blue on my brush. Okay, so there we have another mountain ridge, and just a little bit more sap green to that mix. I want this quite nice. And what you can also do with this layer, as you come in closer, you can take some pigment out. So this is offering a bit more atmosphere. Just going to take, just with a bit of tissue, just taking out some of that pigment. So you got this nice soft, and this could be a bit of mist in the foreground, or the mid sort of foreground. I do need to just add a little bit to this. Maybe this one's more solid, because you can see as I took that pigment out, you can see the background mountains coming through. So I don't want that. I don't want it to be see-through. And just, there we go. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of distance now. You can see quite nice. Just taking out some pigment, it's quite a nice thing to do, especially in these mountain sort of scenes. It's nice to have the atmosphere. Obviously, if you've been to some mountains, you do get a lot of weather, you do get a lot of this mist sort of coming in, and it's just nice to portray that as well. So just a little highlight on that bit. I'm going to further that, just add a little bit more darker detail. That's very dark. Like I said, I did pour out some, squeeze out some more neutral tint in my tray, so I've just got to be careful I don't go too dark in some of the areas, but just want to add a little bit darker tones to some of these ridges, mountains, and then just a little bit of water just to soften that. So I'm just concentrating on the edges now, just to get a more definite peak. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Just a simple bit of darker tone, and then I can go in and lift a little bit again. There we go. So hopefully you can see the atmosphere that I'm already a few minutes in, and I'm creating this atmosphere, this really nice mid foreground. And now I can go in and just add, I'm going to use my larger brush now, so I'm going to use the 1-inch Hake, and I can add some darker tones now as I come forward in the scene. So like I said, I do want to add some trees. Trees are sort of my nemesis. I'm not really happy with the way sometimes the trees turn out, but not all the time. Sometimes I do get it right, but it's good for me to practice trees and that sort of thing in my landscapes. I did say this yesterday. Sometimes in the paper that you use, like this is the Bockingford, and sometimes you do get these little areas where the sizing of the paper, maybe a fault in the factory, I don't know, but you can see these little areas that are just repelling the paint a little bit. So you get these almost fingerprint sort of marks, and I'll probably just have to go darker in that area. But it's not going to spoil things because I will add thicker pigment to this area. So yeah, so it will be covered. So don't panic if that happens. If you do get these sort of problems with the paper, it's no deal breaker at all. But it's just something you gotta be mindful of and work around. So we've got that taken care of. Now let me, my line brush. So I am gonna go in actually. I'll go in now while it's still wet. I'm gonna go in with my Hake brush again, or Hake brush, if you like to call it the Hake brush. I know that's what it's the original name for it, with it being a Japanese brush. Just adding a little bit of French ultramarine and Payne's grey. Just gonna cover this bottom area just here and there and let this blend, because obviously it's still wet. So there we go. Let's see. Yep. So that's rectified this little area where the problem with the paper is. So we don't need to worry too much now. And I'm gonna add a tree. I'll get some dark mix, some burnt umber, a little bit of the neutral tint, and I'm gonna come in and because the paper is still wet, you do get this little bleed out towards the bottom of the tree, but I'm gonna, obviously once it starts to dry, it will become a bit better to paint on. Now can you see, because I'm working now in the foreground, using a bit darker mix of colour, more saturation, it's quite nice because you get these contrast, and it just helps push that mountain right into the distance, both sort of ridges, and so that's quite nice. Okay, I am going to add, I'm thinking maybe to add a building into this scene. What do you think? Would you like me to add some sort of a building? Let me know. If you are here, please do give us a thumbs up, drop me a comment, say hi. It would be appreciated. So I'm just going in now, loosely. That's what I like to do. You paint these loose scenes. So you can see, just adding another tree to this right hand side. Please do hit that like if you're watching. I see there's a few people watching at the moment. I would really appreciate if you do hit that like. So I'm gonna use, got this sponge. I do like to use it every now and then, you can see, and just to add some trees, bushes, that sort of thing into the foreground. And you can see the effect that has. It's quite nice with these trees, bushes, whatever, foliage happening. Oh, I'm a little bit of problem here. This is my other easel that I've had to dig out. Oh, it's fallen again. This is the other easel that I had to dig out because my other one has died, and so I have to use this now. And so using the sponge again, this is an artist sponge that I picked up from the shop, the art shop, and just getting some, try and get some darker pigment to this. And I will go in and clarify some details in those areas that I've sponged in. But let's see, move the camera just a little bit. Okay. So yeah, hope you like this one so far. Quite simple, not added much detail yet, but I will be going in with some more detail. Just want to try and hold back a little bit because the paint's still wet. Maybe I can add some more of those trees to this side. So let's, I think this might be a bit drier now. So yeah, you can see it gives that solid line, and that's what I want. I'm gonna go in with quite a thick tree, quite a dominant one. And this is a perfect brush for painting trees, the liner brush. You get these nice limbs, nice tree effects. I want to thicken this a little bit. Yeah, so it's a really nice brush if you don't have a liner. I do recommend picking one up. Quite inexpensive, there's not much to them. And I'm going to grab a smaller brush now just to add some foliage to the tree. And I'm mixing a little bit of yellow ochre, just a light wash, and then I'm going to use the brush on its side, as you can see, using the brush on the side and moving down, a bit more water. So with this paper, it's cold pressed, you get these nice textures as you use that to your advantage. So that's where I'm getting this nice texture from. A little bit of sap green. I'm gonna just add bits here and there to this tree. Looks like quite an old tree. Quite an old tree, just standing there. And I'm gonna go in with some more dark. I'm just gonna rough this area up. Just with all sorts going on, you can see, just moving the rigger brush nice and loosely. You can see the effect that that has. So you don't have anything. This is a rugged scene. I like doing these. So there's nothing perfect or nothing straight or anything like that, which is good for me because it's hard to paint straight sometimes. So I'm just moving over to this side. I'm gonna just add a few little things, little twigs and stems coming out of this bush. And I will add some more colour, darken. So you can see this being the foreground, you got more clarity, more colour, more definition, that sort of thing. So you want more colour added to those areas. I'm going to go into some nice sort of light, sort of yellow mix. Just playing around with these colours and adding bits here and there. It makes for quite a nice foliage. And maybe I should add a little bit of foliage to these trees as well. A bit more water, sap green mostly. Sap green and bits of yellow ochre. So hopefully you can see that. Just in a few minutes we've got this quite a nice little scene, quite nice. I'm going to go in and add a little bit of colour to this other, I'd say it's probably a hill in this mid foreground. And the paint's not quite wet yet, so I'm getting a little bit from the tree, but that's fine. You see that was the effects it's giving, quite nice. And blend that as well with just some clean water. Okay. So I think this area might be drying a little bit now, a bit more. Please do give us a thumbs up, drop a comment if you just want to say hi and where you're viewing from. That would be really nice. I'm going to go in with some more trees, sort of in front of the trees that I've already done. So these are going to be quite darker than the others, quite a bit bigger, a bit more detail, that sort of thing. And that's how you can separate the trees from the background of the trees. You can really spend as much or as little time as you want on these trees. They are quite nice to do. And if you do need practice like I do, then this is the perfect way in which you can get this practice done. I think I'm gonna add quite dark now, just in the immediate foreground. So this is mostly neutral tint and yellow ochre. You can see that. Okay, that's quite nice. So you got this really dark bit of land. This could actually be a bit of water, a bit of swamp sort of land. Not decided, but that's what it looks like. So we can maybe use that as water and just dab out just a few little details, not too much. Can you see the nice little texture it gives? Let me move the camera again. The nice little texture it gives as I lift out some of that dark, it just gives it, rather than one flat dark, it does give a little bit of texture, a little bit more interest into the scene. Now, one of the things I want to do is just create a few rocks, and you've probably seen this 100 times before if you've been to my channel before. Oh, there we go. There's a few rocks on this side. There we go. Can't help this this pad moving, but it is what it is. Just gotta keep going. So there we go. We've got a few little rocky areas now, so that's quite nice. And what I will do is just add a few darker details to those rock areas. But you can see the effect. It is really simple to do. If you're wondering about scraping rocks, anything like that, if you are struggling with foreground in particular in your watercolor painting, this is a really good solution. You can, if you've never done it before, it is quite an easy technique to master. You don't really need too much experience. All it is you're looking for the paint to sort of halfway dry. So once you add your dark pigment, let that paper sort of dry a little bit, and when it's just damp, you can go in and scrape. If you don't get any scrapes the first time, don't worry too much. Just maybe try it again with a little bit more wet on the paper. And if it's too wet, you will get the pigment pooling back into where you've scraped. So you will be able to tell if your paper's ready. If it does fail, depends how it fails, then you can always rectify that. But it is a really nice solution to those people who do find foregrounds, you know, a little bit. You can do your sky, you can set the scene, and then when it comes to the foreground, it can be a struggle. And I get it, and sometimes it happens to me as well. And that's why I've adopted this nice little technique. And so if there's anything that you take away from this video, then just try scraping some rocks next time you paint and see how you get on. Let me know how you get on. Hopefully it is helpful. And just add in just a few touches of darker tone now to the underneath of the rocks, so that those rocks do pop. And like I said, it is a very simple solution to foregrounds. If you are struggling, just give it a go. And it is nice to, when you do these paintings, it doesn't matter what you paint, it is nice to have darker colours in the edges of the painting. And that's something that just leads your eye nicely into the scene. Okay, so hopefully you can see the depth that I've got in this painting so far. You can really have fun with these sort of paintings. Obviously it's not from a reference of any sort, so I am just painting quite freely. If I think I need a tree, I'll paint a tree. Depends what I want, but you can see the effects that you can have on the paper quite quickly. It is really nice to do. It's nice to have references from time to time. I like doing that, painting from photographs that I've taken. It's really good because, you know, most of us have smartphones now. So that really is something that you can benefit from. And I'm going to move to this other side where I can just add some darks to these rocks. Oh, the camera's bouncing. So I'm just going to go in and add some dark underneath these rocks as well. And it really is quite something when you start doing these rock scraping. And by the way, you don't have to just do this for rocks. You can also do it on trees, pretty much anything. You know, it really is quite nice once you get used to scraping. It really is quite nice what it does to your scene. It really does makes your scene look quite realistic. And if there's nothing else, then just focus on these rocks, just to bring things, you know, just to get your painting quite nice. You can see that now, quite interesting, quite nice. And I'm going to go into this tree sort of foliage area just to add a few darker tones here and there. And this is mostly yellow ochre, sap green pens, neutral tint, just to give me that muted sort of colour which I want. It is nice. I do like painting with sort of muted colour. It does give that almost realistic sort of look. You just mute things down a little bit, because a lot of these colours now, a lot of these brands, they're really rich and vibrant, the colours. So it is nice to go in and just add some, just mute the colours down. This is mostly yellow ochre. It really is one of my favourite colours, yellow ochre. And I'm going to grab my liner brush again and just going to go in with some dark, just twigs and all sorts of things growing. You could imagine this scene, you can imagine all these things growing. Like I said, I think I will leave the middle as of a water. And just flick in with the brush, up and down. Like I say, you don't want anything too perfect. Nature's not perfect. You get all these things going on, and it don't really have to mean anything in particular. You're going in painting a landscape, you want all these random things happening. And I'm just going in. Can you see the way that's helping the rocks just stand out and pop? It really is nice. A really nice effect. I'm going to come a bit further in. So I would say it's a bit of a, I don't know whether to say it's a bit of a marshland. I'm going with it. So just a little bit of water, just soften these lines. Use my small brush again, small round, just to add a touch here and there underneath these rocks. So you can just have shapes, you can have just bits of texture. Yeah, quite forgiving when you do these landscape scenes. You know, nothing, like I said, nothing's perfect. So you can get away with quite a lot, especially when you're making the scene up. I do like using references, but sometimes when you're using reference, you're trying to get things exactly the way you see it on the reference. And sometimes it can sort of limit what we want to do. It's hard to get your brain to switch off from getting things perfect. And that's one of the things that has took me a long time to realize. I've been painting for more than sort of 15, 16 years. First started when I was 16, but then sort of had a bit of a break from it. Just life getting in the way, I suppose. But I've got more serious the last sort of 15, 16 years, something like that. And I don't even know what I was saying. It's just hard to free your mind from going too rigid, too perfect. And so you got to sort of train your brain to loosen things a little bit. And that is the hardest thing that I think in watercolor, to get a loose scene rather than fussing and messing over details. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you like to paint loose? Or is it a struggle to paint in a looser style? Let me know. Yeah, so you can keep painting these sort of scenes. You can go in and add all sorts of details. I was thinking about adding a building, but I think it's too rugged for that. It's somewhere where you'd find no civilization, just wildlife and these sort of trees and nature. Like I said, maybe a marsh scene. But there we go. I think I will add some a bit of lighter yellow. And this is Indian yellow, but it's muddied up with other colours. Just tapping in, just dotting a few little details. I can see the yellow coming through now, the Indian yellow. I don't often use this colour, but I think it is quite a nice colour. And just popping just here and there, just adding a little bit of a lift. It is quite a muted scene, but just want a bit of pop here and there, a bit of colour, which is quite nice. If you can see that. And just carry on. That's one of the things with the trays, the butcher's trays, they're really good for bigger brushes. And that's one of the things that you want to do. If you do struggle getting looser with your paintings, then it really is an idea to get as big a brushes as possible. Like the Hake brush is perfect for this, to help loosen your paintings. And just going to go in a bit more dark. That's another thing that I want to say is don't be afraid to go too dark. Not too dark, but don't be afraid to go even darker, because it's when you go dark that's when your details and the highlights begin to really pop. And it is one of my favorite stages of painting, when you go to the sort of final stages. The final stages, when you add these darks, things really start to take shape, things come to life, and that's a really exciting part of the painting process. So don't be scared of pushing your colours. I know I'm guilty of it as well. So just bear that in mind. Just keep going. Don't think I've ever overworked a painting. It's not something that I tend to do. It's oftentimes the opposite. I do underpaint. Hopefully, I don't think I'm the only one. Well, let me know if you underpaint. So sometimes it's after you've had a break, and that's one thing I do suggest you do as well. Have plenty of breaks while you're painting, because it just gives your eye, when you come back to the painting after a short break, you just see things that you didn't see. It's like the saying, you can't see the wood for the trees. And that's true with watercolor painting as well. Sometimes it's just one of those things, you're too busy concentrating on what you're doing. When you have these little breaks, you can come back and see what you need to do next. But I think I'm quite happy with the way things are progressing on this painting. What else I need to add, I'm not sure. But you can see just in sort of half an hour, 40 minutes, I've got this painting, which I'm quite happy about. I do like the dramatic sky, so I'm quite happy with that. And obviously I have separated the distance. You can see, if you can see those mountains in the sort of furthest part of the painting, the distance, you can see those mountains. And then I've got a second ridge of mountains which I've taken out. I lifted some of that pigment, so I've got this misty sort of effect. And then there's another small layer here of mountains as well. So let me, okay, I am going to paint, or I'm going to draw a few birds in the sky. That's one of the things I really like to do, especially in my landscapes. Just a few little birds here in the sky. And it just offers something. If you've got no people, no sort of life, it just gives a little bit of something to your scene. Sorry about the rocking of the camera. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I do like adding these nice little birds in the sky, and I do use the pen for that. This is just a micron pen, 0.5, so it is quite a good thick nib, and that's perfect for when you want to add some birds. So it's just a lot easier when I use a pen to draw lines and birds. Otherwise, I think we'll have some pterodactyls in the scene. So the brushes are just harder to control than a pen or a pencil. You could also do that with a pencil. But yeah, that's pretty much this one, I think, done. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you like this one. Hopefully it's useful. And if you do drop us a comment and a like, I do really appreciate that. You can see there's the, move the camera back so you can see more of the scene. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this live. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It is quite a quick painting. It took me about 45 minutes or so. But yeah, hopefully this is useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.